For decades, healthcare has mostly worked through occasional snapshots. You go to a doctor once a year, get a few measurements taken, maybe do blood work, then leave with a general idea of your health. If everything looks normal, you move on. For a long time, that system made sense because there weren't many other options. But something feels incomplete about measuring a constantly changing body only once in a while. Your body changes continuously. Heart rate changes throughout the day. Glucose levels rise and fall. Stress hormones shift depending on sleep, environment, and mental state. Even blood pressure changes constantly. If the body is always changing, how much can a single yearly measurement actually show? An annual checkup gives a single point of data. Continuous tracking shows patterns over time. Patterns often reveal things that isolated measurements cannot. Health problems usually develop gradually. The body often changes slowly long before symptoms become obvious. The change already started with wearable devices. Smartwatches and fitness trackers began measuring heart rate, sleep, movement, and oxygen levels throughout the day. At first, these tools felt more like fitness accessories, but over time, the data became more detailed and more useful. When information is tracked continuously, trends become visible. You notice how sleep affects energy, how stress changes heart rate, or how activity influences recovery. You stop relying on memory or assumptions because the patterns are directly visible. I've noticed that people often say they feel fine because nothing feels dramatically wrong. But then a device shows poor sleep quality, elevated stress patterns, or irregular routines over weeks. The person didn't suddenly become unhealthy. The information just became visible. One of the clearest examples is continuous glucose monitoring, or C. Instead of checking glucose occasionally, sensors track changes throughout the day. This allows people to see how meals, stress, movement, and sleep affect their body in real time. And once those patterns become visible, it changes how health is understood. Traditional healthcare often detects problems after symptoms appear. Continuous tracking shifts the focus toward prevention. Changes can be identified much earlier. What happens when healthcare becomes more about prediction than reaction? Future health tracking technologies are expected to measure far more than steps or heart rate. Researchers are developing systems that track hydration, blood pressure, stress biomarkers, hormone fluctuations, and even inflammatory signals continuously. Some technologies may eventually detect disease risk before symptoms appear. The amount of data produced by continuous tracking is enormous. A person cannot realistically analyze all of it manually. That's where artificial intelligence becomes important. AI systems can identify trends, detect abnormalities, and compare patterns over time faster than humans can. At first, this sounds mostly technological. Better devices, more data, smarter systems, but the bigger shift is psychological. Health stops being something you check occasionally and becomes something you observe continuously. That changes how people think about their body. At the same time, constant tracking has challenges. More data can create anxiety if every small fluctuation feels important. Not every variation means something is wrong. This is where interpretation matters just as much as measurement. Annual checkups probably won't disappear completely, but their role may change. Instead of being the primary source of information, they may become a way to confirm and interpret trends. Traditional healthcare reacts after problems become noticeable. Continuous health tracking creates a more adaptive system. It watches changes as they happen, allowing earlier responses before conditions progress further. The biggest shift is not the devices themselves. It's the idea that health is not static. It's dynamic. Once healthcare starts treating the body as something constantly changing, the entire system begins to change with it. Continuous health tracking is changing healthcare from a system based on occasional snapshots into one based on long-term patterns. That shift allows earlier insight, more personalized understanding, and potentially earlier intervention before symptoms fully appear. And once you start thinking about health as something constantly changing, it becomes harder to rely only on yearly checkups to explain it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to learn more.